Today's June 15th. I woke up and looked at my feed this morning. I wrote, I just finished teaching my last class today at Port Richmond High School. It was 5 years ago, and it was before Black Lives Mattered. And I can tell you what that was like for me. I didn't need a knee on my neck. Today I finally can tell you and purge myself of this suffering. I recall my last days of work. I was weeping in the hallways of Port Richmond High School. I had cried on the way home, in my car, and sometimes even months later I'd well up just thinking about my job. It was difficult. As a teacher, I spent 12 years in a painful, difficult environment, and like any abusive relationship, a harmed person stays because it's virtually impossible to leave. And as many battered women stay with abusive men for the welfare of their kids, well, when you're a teacher, you endure, you show up for 150 kids who count on you. 150 students. But I had to get out for the sake of my mental health. So I retired early at 55. Honestly, I thought I was losing my mind. I felt sick. And I cried. I cried because I knew I was leaving my students behind in the hands of people who didn't encourage critical thinking and in many cases outright miseducated them. I cried because I was unable to confront an administration about their discrimination and racism as my complaints fell on deaf ears. And I knew if I expressed my rage, I'd be dismissed as an angry black woman. I cried because I was told more than 100 times by students that I was their first black teacher. And I was the only one who cared about their opinion. I cried because one administrator told me it didn't matter if kids ever had a black teacher, and that race doesn't matter. And although I was only among 3 of us out of maybe 120, somehow they didn't see color. I cried because I knew the only people who had ever had my back or validated my presence and contribution were my students. I cried because students, black, white, Hispanic, and otherwise, referred to me as mama or auntie. But if I called them son, I was speaking as a racist. Yes, I was told that was racist to call a kid son. Son, no, you can't take the pass. Son, get your notebook out. Son, no, I don't have another pen. I cried recalling the retching feeling. It was a knot in my stomach one day when I had to censure myself while teaching about the economic disparities that caused the French Revolution. Because any discussion about race or class could have possibly offend Karen or Becky, who was confident in her white privilege. She'd report to my white administrators, who of course would investigate me for the stupidest allegations. I cried about all the untapped potential of black students and the stifling classrooms where they sat quietly in rows, only to memorize some of the stupidest things that proved irrelevant. I cried when considering all of the very average or even below average girls whose transcripts were stamped with inflated grades. And I felt the wrath when their white parents called other white people on me to challenge my competency. I cried because I suffered from PTSD after being assigned the most difficult group of students for 4 years straight, while my white, less academic counterparts got to teach advanced classes. I knew that because my color, I was relegated to being a babysitter or an enforcer, not just an instructor or an academic who could teach what I mastered in. I cried because I could never, ever get the help I requested, be it a laptop to take home, maybe a clean classroom, a co-teacher when I had a class where there were 50% of them special needs. I had one student teacher in all of that time, and I had limited opportunity to grade Regents exams, which gave you access to thousands of dollars of procession hours. Everybody knew about it but me. I was a teacher of government and history, and I felt the bigotry. During an election year, I was told not to discuss the presidency. Don't even mention Obama's name, she said. I had an Obama sticker my mom sent to me. I was afraid to put it on my car because of the potential vandalism by some unknown racist who walked in that very school with me. One of the most damaging events to my psyche was this wall. I had this wall in my classroom. It was behind my desk. It was a collage of posters and quotes and stickers of historical figures. Malcolm, Martin, Che among them. Some of it was art I brought back from other countries. I came to my room to find it all torn down, thrown away, not a trace of it anywhere. I cried for sure that day. I walked across the hall to check on my colleague whose Civil War posters and pictures of World War battles totally intact. And I asked him one time why there was no one on his wall that was black. I had to beg for the opportunity to showcase any talent or any experiences or observations I had before the entire staff, and those few times I was cut short by my supervisors. They didn't want me to speak, even though I can do that eloquently. At times, they tried their best to silence me. And no, you can't do this, and no, you can't have that much array. It was considered racist to ask the question, was Columbus a hero or a villain? Or un-American to ask, are we safer after the destruction of the World Trade Center? I was called a racist when I stated people from Spain are white. And can you believe another teacher said, no, they're not white, but Hispanic? At the onset of the Iraq War, I heard a colleague say, we should just imperialize the Middle East. Anyway, I think I cried then. Later, he was promoted to an assistant principal somewhere. I made only a few friends. It was probably a year or two before I left, because whenever I got close to another professional who was actually an intellectual, they too soon would depart or be separated from me for no reason. I've taught in many schools and in different spaces, yet it was confirmed in this place, more than any place I'd been, that you can be an incompetent white person and still win. But Black Lives Matter. And that, my friends, is the gist of Staten Island. Thank you, Dave Chappelle, for outing them. Yes, Black Lives Matter today. Finally, some vindication. What a momentous time. An opportunity to grieve openly. It's not just George Floyd. It's also Marge Lloyd and many others who suffered at the hands of racism.